Hey guys, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be updated every time I make a new video. Thanks, let's begin. Tremors proved that you could come up with the best ideas by just sitting on a rock. Writer S.S. Wilson, while editing films for the Navy, was working out in the desert in California. While wandering around on the ranges one day, he climbed up a rock. It was there he got an idea.
What if there was something under the ground and I couldn't get off this rock?
The film opens up with two characters, Valentine McKee, played by Kevin Bacon, and Earl Bass, played by Fred Ward, who are waking up during the early hours of the morning. After a good shake-up provided by Val, they head off to do their miscellaneous jobs for the day. They talk and throw around the idea of possibly leaving the nearby town they live in, Perfection. On their way to said town, they run into a new college student working out in the fields. Rhonda LeBeck, played by Finn Carter. She is running seismology tests and has been getting some strange readings. Leaving her to her job, the two meet up with the locals. There's Melvin Plug, played by Robert Jane, Miguel, played by Tony Gennaro, Walter Chain, played by Victor Wan, and Bert and Heather Gummer, played by Michael Gross and Reba McEntire. They chit-chat and such. After Rhonda nearly encounters an unseen presence, Val and Earl decide they're fed up with their current small jobs and want to do something of more profitable measures. So when their sewage treatment goes awry, they pack up to leave town. They run into two other characters, Mindy, played by Ariana Richards, and Nancy, played by Charlotte Stewart. Nancy offers them a job, but they end up refusing and driving off anyway. They are dedicated to leaving the town. Not far into their journey, they come across Edgar, a local bum, hanging out atop an electrical tower. After a game of rock, paper, scissors shoot between the two, Val goes up to retrieve Edgar. Only problem is, he's dead. A quick pit stop to the doctor's office revealing that Edgar died from dehydration, and Val and Earl make their way out of town again. Local farmer Old Fred is quickly killed off along with his flock of sheep. Val and Earl see the carcasses and go to look for Old Fred. After finding his body, the two take off. Passing by a couple of construction workers from earlier, they warn them. However, they do not believe them and continue with their drilling. They are soon killed off by an unseen force. Making their way back into Perfection, Val and Earl try to call for help, but the phone lines are dead. So they drive onto the main road and almost collide with the pile of rocks from the attack on the workers. Finding some blood, they hightail it back to Perfection, but not before getting snagged by something. They get loose and drive off. Coming back into the town, everyone notices a snake-like creature attached to their truck, and they come to the conclusion that there is most likely more of them out there. When writers S.S. Wilson and Brent Maddock brought a screenplay for the entitled Land Shark to Universal, the studio greenlit the project almost immediately. Filming began in May of 1989 with a budget of around $11 million. With Ron Underwood in the director's chair, he had a keen vision for the film but was open to suggestions, especially when it came to the film's ending and its vital kiss. Filming on location at Alabama Hills, Lone Pine, California, and Olancha, California, USA, the film had big aspirations. What started as a low-budget idea quickly turned into a large-scale movie. Production designer Ivo Cristante had a huge undertaking with this movie. He has a background in mechanical effects and became vital in making the buildings and effects work in an organic and realistic way. We have him to thank for building the town of Perfection from the ground up. For instances involving the buildings, the effects worked flawlessly, as did the jackhammer scene. However, other effects were a true challenge to get to work. Wanting a warm feeling throughout, director of photography Alexander Grzinski gave this old town the feeling of romance. This was amplified by the music provided by Ernest Troost, who composed a score with a western twang and a lot of heart. O. Nicholas Brown edited the film, taking the usual first and second unit shots. He compiled a 96-minute feature. The film flows at a great pace and is never boring. Makeup effects artist Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff created the worms later to be called graboids, which is coined in the sequels. They really went all out and made something that looked like it could actually exist. Using using books to research animals. Things such as skin coloring and movement were vital in the creation of the underground monsters. Other things went into consideration as well. The graboids needed to be of substantial size, so it didn't give the impression that it'd be full after eating only a few people. Originally, the sketches for the creature design were unintentionally more phallic. After some chuckles from the woman at the office, they had to go back to the drawing board. Dennis Skotek was the director of photography. His greatest challenge on the film was to match the miniature effects lighting with the set lighting. He pulled it off flawlessly. Robert Skotek, an art director, worked with the lighting. At one point while working with a backdrop, so much light shined off it that his shirt started to smoke. They eventually had to move their schedules to night. A lot of the miniatures were used in order to get certain shots done. Shots such as the worm smashing into the ceiling or going over the cliff. It all seems flawless. There is a composite shot that looks a bit iffy though. The rest of the effects, which included a full-scale creature, hand puppets, and models, look nothing short of amazing, especially given the film's budget. On their way to the next town over, Val and Earl's horses begin to act skittish. One is dragged onto the ground. It's the snake-like creatures. Shooting the creature off the now dead horse, the ground begins to quake, and the reveal of a giant worm-like monster erupts with excitement. As Val and Earl flee for their lives, they attempt to jump over an aqueduct. Trying to climb out to no avail, the worm hits the wall and is killed on impact. Rhonda finds them and helps them uncover what reveals to be a 30-foot worm of sorts. She establishes that they have no eyes and have spikes on their side to help them dig through the ground. Most unsettling of all is that she comes to the conclusion that there are 3 more of these worms. Making their way to her truck, the trio passes by Rhonda's seismograph and sees that something other than them is making it go off. They bolt for a nearby boulder and ascend right before the creatures can get to them. After pondering on what these things are and where they come from for a while, they test to see if they are still around. Seeing it is so, Val suggests that it must be listening to them, and Rhonda explains that they hunt by sound, and that's why they have no eyes. The next day, Rhonda grabs a rod and pole vaults across each rock until she reaches the one next to her truck. Val and Earl quickly follow pursuit, eventually making it. They quickly drive off back to perfection. While trying to discuss what these worms are and what they should do, Melvin plays a prank on Earl, and in turn is scared by the appearance of one of these beasts. Hearing his screams, they think he's playing another prank, only to discover they found perfection. All scattering around, the townspeople try to get inside and hide quietly. Mindy, sporting some headphones and riding a pogo stick, is soon pursued by the worm. Val runs to intervene. He does so successfully. Her pogo stick wasn't that lucky, however. Rhonda is nearly eaten, but Val saves her. Another worm comes into town. With options running out, a previously established faulty cooler runs, making a loud sound, which draws the worm to Walter Chain's store. Chain is killed off, and the creatures attack. Val, Earl, and Miguel make it to the store's roof. Meanwhile, Bert and Heather pull up to their place. After a long day of scouting, they head down into the basement. Bert calls for Walter on the radio. Val manages to pick it up and talk to Bert, warning him that there are underground monsters. Heather accidentally begins to make some noise, drawing the creatures right to their house. Despite Val screaming for them to get out of there, the worm bursts through the basement and attacks. The group figures that Bert and Heather are dead. After a barrage of bullets, the worm is dead. Reveling in their success, their hopes resurface. However, it proves difficult to kill the others. Bert's weapons can't shoot through the dirt. To make matters worse, another local Nestor, played by Richard Marcus, is eaten, much to Melvin's dismay. Enough is enough, and the group plans to get to the huge cat machine and tow what is left of the townsfolk to safety. Narrowly being eaten, Val makes it to the cat and drives to the others. They all pile in. Bert and Heather are gearing up by the time the group gets to their house. All together now, they drive towards the mountains, where it'd be too rocky for the worms to climb. Unfortunately, they dug a trap. With the cat out of commission, they all run for the rocks, pondering on what to do next. Earl comes up with the idea to lure the worms with dynamite and have them eat it, the fuse lit. This works for one of them. However, the last one doesn't fall for it, and spits the dynamite back at the group, and it lands onto one of the bags that has all but one of the remaining dynamite. A huge explosion ensues. Everyone's alright, but Val, Earl, and Rhonda are out on the land. Val knows this one will not fall for the same trick. He takes his chances and runs for a cliff face. Nearing the ledge, Rhonda and Earl in tow, he lights the fuse and tosses the dynamite. It misses, and in a fit of rage, the worm barrels towards them. Earl and Rhonda get out of the way, but Val stays determined to see his plan through. Dodging the worm at the last second, the creature goes too fast and flies out through the cliff face and lands on the spiky rocks below. After the dust settles, the town gains notable recognition for the discovery of these worms. We end on a kiss between Val and Rhonda as the credits roll. The balance of horror and comedy is blended extremely well here. It's a movie that you can watch with the whole family. It is a bit intense, but by the end you are exhilarated, and the climax is all the more rewarding. You just feel so good by the time it's over. Perfection, Nevada has become a staple in the franchise. It is a bit of a place of wonder, though. How do these people make a living and such? I mean, the sequels kind of explain it, but in the first one, they're just normal folk living in a very rundown town. I think the charm of the place outweighs some of the flaws with it. Still, it's a totally realized location. Everyone knows everyone, and it just feels wholesome and welcoming. It's a cozy movie. The tone isn't all over the place, and its coloration is on point. Nothing is lush, and that is to be expected. They are in the desert after all. Robert Folk composed the music but was let go, and Ernest Trute took over. I believe some of Robert Folk's music is still able to be heard in the film. I love the mix of cheerful and chilling music in this movie. I feel the music fits every scene. Even some that should have a tenser score are treated with delight. I feel the music works in those scenes because you feel great about the characters having found a way to survive. It always ends up with a close call musical score that will probably be enough to make up for the lack of scary music. It's all highly energetic. As I said earlier, the movie moves at a brisk pace. It doesn't dwell on things too long. When the main characters finally get back to town, it takes the worms all but 5 minutes to have followed them there and start attacking. It's a thrill ride that only stops when necessary. The effects are one of those things that brought this movie so much notoriety. For 1990, they are downright inspiring. The use of miniatures, puppets, models, and full-scale props create a mishmash of amazing work. Some of the crew had worked with James Cameron on Aliens, having this come out 4 years after that film's release, and you can see where they've improved. I'm sure it looked great in a portfolio. Watching this as a kid, I thought the monsters were based off of real creatures. They kind of reminded me of a maggot with a bird's beak. We wouldn't have Tremors without the characters. Val, Earl, Rhonda, Bert, Heather, and the rest are all staples in the series. Even though some of them didn't return for the sequels, the series as a whole feels like a family project. Tremors has going on 6 sequels, 2 TV series, 1 cancelled, unfortunately, and a strong fan base. I will be reviewing Tremors and its sequels and TV show in more detail with the upcoming Tremors Island Fury, which is the 7th installment, so for now, we'll just focus on Tremors. There was a reunion recently in Lone Pine, California. Fans rejoiced as they met with some of the cast and crew who worked on the film. They also traveled out to some of the locations the film was shot at. It seemed like an amazing experience, and I wish I could have gone. Still, I'm happy to see that all the fans came together for an awesome movie and an awesome franchise in general. I obviously wasn't the only one to see these movies as a kid. I actually saw 2 and 3 before I saw the first Tremors because I couldn't find it on TV. Eventually it came on and I was amazed. It's easy to be captivated by Tremors. Tremors is a fantastic movie on pretty much every level. There are some minor flaws, but they don't take away from the overall experience. I'd say if you want a movie with a lot of heart and effort put into it that is still fun, then look no further than Tremors. Better yet, if you want an example of a fantastic January movie, then you'll get your fix here, because Tremors proves that not all January releases are garbage.